Halloween sequel trilogy rebooted in 2018, promising a fitting end to Laurie Strode and Michael Myers' story started way back in 1978. And now we've reached the end with Halloween Ends. Is this it for Laurie? For real this time? Who makes it out alive? When does evil die? I can confirm without spoiling anything that Halloween does indeed end. So, points for delivering on the premise, but past here, I will be breaking down exactly what happens in Halloween Ends in full spoilers. So if you aren't ready for that, I advise you to check out the movie now in theaters and the Peacock streaming service, and then creepily stalk back on over here for the rest of this video. Halloween Ends begins with jack-o'-lanterns in jack-o'-lanterns played over with John Carpenter's classic score. But really, it starts on Halloween 2019, 1 year after the events of the previous two movies. Michael Myers hasn't been seen since that last fateful Halloween and is sort of the figurative town boogeyman again. Corey, a 21-year-old with a bright future, is babysitting a kid named Jeremy who tries to scare him, and in the process, Corey accidentally knocks Jeremy off the high stairwell, and he dies. Corey then becomes the town pariah, the kid killer, and he's never able to shake that, misses out on his dreams, and works at his dad's auto scrapyard by modern day 2022, where we pick up. Michael is still an absentee. Laurie, writing her memoirs, notes how Haddonfield has changed, how the town has descended into grief, fear, and paranoia following Michael Myers' attacks. She's tried to move on with her life. In a nice new home she shares with her granddaughter Allison, who now works at the local medical clinic following her parents' deaths back in 2018. Did you know high school marching band kids could be bullies? Corey does, because a group of them keep picking on him and Laurie stands up for him by slashing their tires. Grow old but never grow up, I guess. Laurie sets up a meet-cute between Corey and Allison, while she has a vegetable cute with Frank Hawkins, the police officer who's been in these movies all along. They seem to really like each other, and it's nice to see Laurie look happy. Allison tries to get Corey out of his shell at a Halloween party, away from the shame and stigma he feels, and when it starts to go well for him, Jeremy's mother yells in his face. He runs away and gets jumped by the marching band bullies again and finds himself in Michael Myers' hideaway through a sewer drain pipe. Michael strangles him because, of course, and Corey sees his life flash before his eyes before running away and stabbing an unhoused man to death. He is clearly going through something and feeling weird, which Laurie notices when he stalks around and stares just like Michael used to, which isn't great because he and Allison are getting closer and closer. Corey lures Allison's ex into Michael's lair and they both team up to murder him. Corey wants to learn Michael's ways, and it seems like whatever darkness Michael has is transferring into Corey. And Corey is getting closer to Allison and resolves with her to burn it to the ground and leave Haddonfield. The next day, Laurie says she felt Michael's eyes and Corey's stare and agrees with Jeremy's father that he's gone down a dark path and it may be the town's fault. Laurie begs Allison to leave him, but she won't. Corey and Michael team up again to kill Allison's boss, who passed her up for a promotion, and Deb, his paramour and Allison's co-worker, who got the promotion. Corey watches Michael stab and choke, transfixed. He goes to sleep in the spot where the kid he was babysitting died in the now abandoned house. It's October 31st now. You know what day that is. Laurie confronts Corey as he wakes up saying he has internalized evil and he needs to stay away from Allison, to which he creepily says, if I can't have her, no one will, and that he thinks Laurie always hoped Michael would come back for her, because that's kind of what he's doing with Laurie's granddaughter, which is gross. Go write a fanfic in private, geez. This is the night Allison and Corey agreed to leave Haddonfield together, and Laurie fails to convince Allison to not go with him. But before they meet up, Corey steals Michael's white Captain Kirk mask and kills his mom, the teenage bullies, the receptionist at the local radio station, and the radio DJ, Willie the Kid, who'd been taunting him in person and on the radio earlier. It's pound for pound the grossest kill in the movie, with him cutting out the DJ's tongue and leaving it on the spinning record that's playing on the radio. Haddonfield is very into terrestrial radio. Lori, alone at home, drinks and lights a jack-o'-lantern. She pulls a derringer and calls 911 to report a suicide. She cries and holds the gun to her head and pulls the trigger on the jack-o'-lantern. "Did you really think I was going to kill myself?" she asks Corey as she fires at him. They fight and he says again, "If I can't have her, no one can," slitting his own throat, which Allison comes home and witnesses at just the wrong time, thinking Lori did it. Michael rejoins the chat, killing Corey for good, reclaiming his mask and stalking Lori. They get into a huge fight in the kitchen and she manages to pin his hands down to her kitchen table with knives, stabs him in the chest and through the armpit, and slices his throat. He gets his hands around her neck and she screams, "Do it!" while her memories flash before her eyes, but Allison runs in and stops him. Lori slits his wrists and Frank walks in responding to the 911, asking if he's finally dead. Not dead enough. They strap his body to the top of the car, which everyone in town apparently sees, and they follow Lori and company to the scrapyard where she throws Michael Myers' body in a huge grinder, and we watch as his body gets torn apart to little bits. He's super incredibly dead. Allison moves away from Haddonfield on her own, and honestly, good choice to move on from the town where all your friends and your parents were murdered. Lori moves on too, planning a trip with Frank, and that's it. Michael does not lunge at the camera. Lori is free. Halloween ends. The movie did undeniably deliver on its premise. Halloween ended. Lori got peace and happiness, and both she, her granddaughter, the survivors, and the people of Haddonfield got to move on. The recent Halloween trilogy has never been subtle. I mean, we all unfortunately remember Evil Dies Tonight. And this one was crystal clear with that sort of messaging as well. They talk about the town being almost sick from fear and grief and paranoia, with conversations positing Corey is on a dark path because of how the town has treated him, and Lori telling him there are two kinds of evil, the external and the internal, the kind that creeps up on you and you don't even know you have. At one point, the movie flat out quotes Nietzsche, saying, "Whoever fights monsters should see to it that in the process he does not become a monster," which Lori pretty much embodied in 2018's Halloween and Halloween Kills with her Michael Myers death trap house, is now moving on in her symbolic cheerful house while warning Corey away from becoming the monster of his own story. She fails at that, obviously, but at least she was able to keep her own head above water. Whenever Lori or Corey, and that has to be intentional rhyming by the way, right? Experience joy in public, someone from the town shows up to yell at them. It's especially weird with Lori because she wasn't a killer, and yet one person blames her for Michael Myers' killing spree, and another person, Corey's mom, blames her for stopping Michael Myers' killing spree. She can't win! Lori gets accused of being obsessed with death, of wanting and willing Michael's return, and this has all been her process of grieving, confronting and processing trauma, and by extension everyone else's, whether they were successful or not. In their last scene together, she tells Michael she's run from him, chased him, tried to contain him, and tried to forgive him. She almost gives in, and yet she doesn't, thanks to her own willpower and her loved one, Allison. You didn't need me to tell you this, but it's all been about dealing with trauma and awful feelings, and ultimately ends on a hopeful and uplifting note. Unless they decide to bring him back again. It's not like it's never been done. I'm not reviewing this movie, but overall it was a decently surprising, cathartic end for a character who's been through a lot. No, I'm not talking about Michael getting stabbed once and wrongfully left for dead countless times. I mean, finally, someone destroyed the whole body. Thank you. I'm talking about Lori, a character who's repeatedly dealt with trauma, post-traumatic distress, and then during that, more trauma. She's been through grief, fear, anger, attempts at peace, guilt, so many emotions except the positive ones. Haddonfield has too, but I honestly don't really care about most of the townspeople. It's always been Lori's journey. While I think there were missteps in handling Michael's story, what he is, and his transference to Corey, and there was some very ham-fisted dialogue, it was at least good to see Lori finally process everything and get something resembling peace and happiness for once. No Halloween is complete without Easter eggs. Wait, That's a different, unrelated holiday. The main title font is the same used in the third Halloween movie, Season of the Witch. That's the one that's not about Michael or Laurie, it's about haunted masks. There are several homages and straight-up recreations from the original Halloween movie in this movie. In the first few minutes, Corey is babysitting Jeremy, the two watch John Carpenter's sci-fi classic, The Thing. Not only is this a nod to one of Carpenter's best films, it's also a reference to a scene from the original in which Lindsay Wallace watches The Thing from outer space, which Carpenter remade in 1982. The original Michael Myers actor Nick Castle appears during the costume party as a flasher. Don't worry, it's an actual costume depicting human guts, nothing gross. Laurie is writing her memoirs entitled Stalkers, Saviors, and Samhain. Samhain is the Celtic festival which eventually became the Halloween holiday we know today, but it's also been referenced in prior Halloween movies. In Halloween 2, Dr. Loomis finds that Michael's written it on a blackboard, but there he translates the word to Lord of the Dead, which isn't quite historically accurate. In Halloween 3, Season of the Witch, the only one not to feature Myers, villain Connell Cochran is a Celtic witch who plans a mass sacrifice of children on the night of Halloween. The holiday is also central to the plot of Halloween 6, The Curse of Michael Myers. That curse is the Curse of Thorn, which in that movie's canon was the force driving Michael Myers to kill. There's a shot of Laurie looking down from her home to see Corey near a bush looking at her from the sidewalk, only for him to disappear, which recreates a similar setup in Halloween 78, where she sees Michael in her backyard from her bedroom. Michael kills Allison's co-worker Deb by impaling her onto a wall, just like how he kills Linda's boyfriend Bob in Halloween 78. During their final confrontation, Michael's face is reflected in Laurie's knife. This is a bit of a visual callback to the posters for Halloween 5, Halloween 6, and Halloween Resurrection. That's the closest this trilogy ever gets to those movies. The movie ends on a series of shots of empty rooms in Laurie's house, similar to Halloween 78 ends, just much more serene now that Michael's dead. Don't Fear the Reaper plays over the end credits. The song plays on the radio in Halloween 78 as Laurie and Annie are driving around Haddonfield. What do you think of Halloween Ends? Was it the proper end? Did you like the violence ratio it had, or was it off? Why has no one thought to throw Michael's body in an industrial grinder before, or at least chop his head off? Let us know your thoughts about Michael, Laurie, and whether evil dies tonight in the comments below. I'm Kim Horcher. Thanks for watching this episode of Canon Fodder, and for more Michael Myers, make sure to back up on the entire Halloween story leading up to Halloween Ends, and don't forget to follow and subscribe to IGN wherever you like to watch.